Morricone was born in Rome in 1928 and was a classmate of Sergio Leone's at school. In 1964 he was hired by Leone to write the score for A Fistful of Dollars on the strength of previous musical arrangements. Morricone used unorthodox arrangements of instruments such as bells, electric guitars, harmonicas and the distinctive twang of the Jew's harp. In addition, he introduced sounds made by mouth such as whistles, hums and vocal choruses. While Morricone's scores lacked in lyrics, he made up for in style and originality. It was the signature tune of spaghetti westerns, and to this day Morricone continues to make film soundtracks. In 1968, Leone produced what was going to be his final spaghetti western, Once Upon a Time in the West, starring major Hollywood actors Charles Bronson and Henry Fonda, both of which he'd sought for many years to be in his movies. This epic western was regarded by many critics to be his masterpiece, although failed to be a commercial success at the box office due to the edit that Paramount Pictures had put out. Leone's cut, however, was a far more completed piece of work that was both a tribute to the western genre and his unique style of filmmaking. Leone may have started the spaghetti western, but he wasn't the only creative force within the genre. In 1966 there was a new spaghetti western anti-hero that stood taller than the man with no name.
Django, Django, you must face another day.
Sergio Corbucci had tried his hand at most popular film genres, but had found his feet creating spaghetti westerns. His trademark of over-the-top violence and large body count had become a typical trait of his. For instance, in Django, over 80 characters are killed off within the first half hour. Django, played by Franco Nero, introduces us to a new and unique and often violent character. Throughout the film we see Django dragging a coffin behind him, later revealing that the casket doesn't contain a body, but instead a very large machine gun. Corbucci went on to direct two more films after Django that starred Franco Nero, The Mercenary and Compañeros. But the pinnacle of his work was with the film The Great Silence. With its wintry backdrop of snow and ice and its brutal depiction of violence, this was no stereotypical spaghetti western. Corbucci, speaking of his leading man, said that John Ford had John Wayne, I have Franco Nero. Nero was so well known in Italy for his role that whenever he checked into a hotel he was signed in by staff as Django. Franco Nero has gone on to appear in several Hollywood films such as Die Hard 2 and is currently aged 60 working in Italy in a variety of films. Although Once Upon a Time in the West was supposed to be Sergio Leone's last western, in 1971 he wrote a script for a movie entitled Duck You Sucker, also known as A Fistful of Dynamite. He only intended to oversee the project. However, actors James Coburn and Rod Steiger refused to work with anyone other than Leone. So acting director Giancarlo Santi was sacked from the project. Leone reluctantly took the project on board, but his heart was never truly in it. This is evident from the final release. Sergio Salima directed The Big Gun Down, Face to Face and Run Man Run. His choice of leading man was Cuban actor Thomas Millian. Millian was a veteran of the spaghetti western, appearing in The Bounty Killers in 1966, but more notably in Django Kill. Django Kill explored a character coming back from death. The scene is symbolic of the character being reborn. There are religious references in the film, many of which revolve around the wrath of God. Django Kill also deals with surrealism, the ugliness of human nature, homosexuality, and the concept of an avenging angel. Salima took Millian and broke the mould of Eastwood's anti-hero. Gone were the 6 shooters to be replaced by the knife, usually wielded by a Mexican peasant. Later spaghetti westerns were set in and around the Mexican Revolution, such as Bullet for the General. These films had a political left-wing stance that mixed historical and modern-day politics. Once the genre starts to spoof itself, you know it's in decline. The only recognised this and produced the unofficial ending to the spaghetti western in 1973 with the film My Name is Nobody. Teaming Hillett with veteran Hollywood actor Henry Fonda as a new meets old western. The film is set in 1899 at the end of the Old West and the beginning of the New America. The film directly relates to the end of the genre. The mid-70s saw Italian cinema move into the horror genre. There were a few exceptions, such as the ultraviolent A Man Called Blade. Due to budget constraints, they were unable to build the set the way they wished, so used fog effects to mask out the flaws. However, this did make for a very atmospheric film. Its contemporary, Chioma, starring Franco Nero, had as much in common with spaghetti westerns as it did with Sam Peckinpah. The film deals with themes around anti-racism, the complexity of family, the supernatural, and is steeped in religious symbolism.
You find the source of pain, the source of love, and you, Chioma, you, my boy, you wanna die or wanna live? Don't you feel you've done it all? And don't you think the time has come to love?
Nero rides out one last time, this time in Russia, in the almost identical remake of Chioma, Jonathan of the Bears. This was truly the last spaghetti western, made in 1992. The legacy of the Italian western left the protagonist forever changed. Gone was the clean-cut hero, to be replaced by the darker, edgier type, picked up in the 80s by Schwarzenegger, Stallone and Bruce Willis.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!
Although the spaghetti western is long since dead, its legacy still remains in popular culture. With the likes of Kill Bill and the Japanese remake of Django, there is still interest in the old themes, although whether we'll see the likes of The Man with No Name again remains to be seen.
This is Sukiyaki Western.
So, it's adios amigos, and remember, if you gotta shoot, shoot, don't talk.